I wake up every morning with this familiar, sinking feeling in my chest, the weight of numbers I can't seem to escape. It's not just the bills staring back at me from the kitchen counter, or the endless scrolling of my bank app showing my balance barely moving. It's the way the world around me feels like a slow squeeze, tightening in on every part of my life. The rent went up again last month. So did the grocery prices. My paycheck? Pretty much the same. Somewhere in the middle of all this, I'm just trying to hold on. I'm 27 years old, and I've worked my butt off since I was a teenager. I got a decent job after college, something I'm grateful for, but it's never felt like enough. I remember when I first started, I thought if I just kept working, maybe things would get easier. Maybe I'd get a raise that outpaced inflation, maybe I could finally save a little. But every time I think I'm making progress, something shifts. The utility bill goes up, gas prices climb, or my car suddenly needs expensive repairs. It's like playing a game where the rules change every day, and I'm losing without even knowing why. Everyday decisions have become these high-stakes puzzles. Should I buy that $15 lunch, or should I pack something from home, even if it means eating the same boring sandwich 3 days in a row? Can I afford to fill up the tank now, or should I wait until the next paycheck, even if it means being late to work? There's this constant mental math running through my head. What can I skip? What can I delay? What won't break if I don't pay it this month? Sometimes I feel like I'm living in slow motion, watching my hopes and dreams get shelved, one by one. I used to dream about traveling, about moving to a bigger city, maybe going back to school for something I'm really passionate about. I wanted to save for a down payment on a house, have a cushion, build a life with a little breathing room. But all those plans feel so distant now. The financial pressure feels like a chain, holding me in place. I tell myself these sacrifices are temporary, but the truth is, it's hard not to wonder if things will ever really change. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I'm constantly stressed, not just the usual kind, but a deep, gnawing anxiety that lives in the pit of my stomach. There's shame, too. Shame about not having more, about needing to say no to friends, about not being able to help my family the way I want. I'm embarrassed when I can't cover unexpected expenses. It's like I'm failing at adulting, even though I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. I see other people my age buying homes, traveling, living carefree lives on social media, and I wonder what's wrong with me. I do my best to cope. I've gotten good at budgeting, clipping coupons, hunting for deals, and stretching every dollar until it screams. I work overtime when I can, even if it leaves me exhausted and drained. I try to find small joys, a walk in the park, cooking a new recipe at home, reading a good book, but even those sometimes feel like luxuries. Sleep doesn't always come easy, my mind races through all the what-ifs and how-can-Is. But amid the struggle, there's a stubborn spark inside me. I hold on to hope, even if it's fragile. Hope that someday, the math will work in my favor. That I'll find a career path that pays what I deserve. That the economy might shift so living doesn't feel like a daily battle. I dream of stability, the kind where I don't have to count every penny or choose between rent and groceries. I dream of freedom, financial freedom, emotional freedom, freedom to live without constant worry. Sometimes, I talk to close friends or family about this, and it helps to be heard, to know I'm not alone. But mostly, I keep these feelings close because vulnerability feels risky when it comes to money. There's a pressure to appear like you have it all together, even when inside you feel like you're drowning. But maybe one day, I'll be able to tell this story without the fear or shame, just as a chapter that shaped me, not the whole book. Right now, though, I'm still in the trenches, balancing the never-ending expenses and the stagnant income. Trying to find light in the small moments, trying not to lose sight of the dreams I've had to put on hold, hoping that someday, somehow, those dreams will come back within reach. Until then, I keep waking up, keep trying, keep surviving. Because giving up isn't an option, even when the system feels designed to keep me trapped. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? while working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. Sometimes, I wonder if anyone really gets what it feels like to live trapped in this cycle, where every month, every single week, the numbers just don't add up. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes at the bottom. No matter how fast or hard you pour, it just leaks away, leaving you frustrated, exhausted, and somehow still broke. I'm 26 now, and for most of my adult life, financial pressure has been this shadow that follows me everywhere, shrinking my world, tightening its grip bit by bit. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college with a decent job and a head full of dreams. Back then, it seemed like if I just worked hard, saved a bit, and managed my budget carefully, I'd eventually get there, own a home, travel, maybe even start a family one day. But the truth is, the economy doesn't work like that for people like me. Not anymore. Rent prices shot up faster than my salary increases, groceries cost more every time I walked into a store, and utilities kept climbing without pause. The inflation numbers on the news felt distant, abstract, until I started paying the bills. Then it was all too real. Every day, I make decisions that I never imagined I'd have to. Choosing between paying for a doctor's visit or buying food for the week. Skipping meals sometimes, just so I can keep the electricity on. I've cut back on everything, canceled subscriptions, stopped going out with friends, even avoiding trips to the dentist. I tell myself it's temporary, that I'm doing what I have to do until things get better. But the truth is, it doesn't feel temporary. It feels like a trap. I work 2 jobs now, my main one during the day and a part-time gig in the evenings. Both barely cover rent and essentials, and that leaves almost nothing for savings or emergencies. The constant juggling takes a toll. I'm exhausted in ways I didn't expect, physically tired but even more drained emotionally. The stress is like this weight that sits on my chest every morning I wake up, reminding me of the debts I'm accumulating just to keep afloat. I've started losing sleep, not because I'm worried about big things, but because I'm overwhelmed by the small, relentless pressures, the overdue bills, the unexpected expenses, the never-ending list of things I should be doing to improve my financial situation but can't find the time or energy for. I'm not proud of how often I've had to ask for help, borrowing money from family or friends, knowing it's a burden for them too. But pride doesn't pay the gas bill, and I can't stop the landlord from raising rent every year. It feels like no matter what I do, the system is designed to keep me scrambling. The cost of living rises faster than my paycheck, and the opportunities for decent raises or stable jobs feel fewer and further between. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe if I tried harder or was smarter I could break free. But deep down, I know it's not just me, it's the system, and it's broken. There are nights when I just sit on the floor of my tiny apartment, overwhelmed by the silence and the weight of everything I can't change. I cry, not because I'm weak, but because it's hard to carry this burden alone. I wonder how people my age can still dream. How they can think about buying homes, starting families, or going back to school. Those dreams feel distant now, like luxuries I can't afford to even consider. I've had to postpone going back to college for that master's degree I always wanted. Even traveling to see my family back home has become an occasional luxury instead of a regular visit. But somehow, amidst all this pressure and uncertainty, I still hold on to hope. Not a naive kind of hope, but the stubborn, quiet kind that keeps me showing up every day, paying what I can, saving pennies where possible. I try to find moments of joy in small things, cooking a cheap but tasty meal, reading a book borrowed from the library, chatting with friends on the phone. These things remind me that life isn't only about money, even if it feels that way sometimes. I dream of a future where money isn't a cage, a future where I can breathe without counting every cent, where I don't have to choose between necessities and basic healthcare. I want to believe that someday, maybe soon, I'll find a stable job with decent pay, a place to call home without fear of eviction, and the freedom to plan for the future instead of just surviving today. I know the path to that future is long, and there are no guarantees. But I have to believe it's possible. For now, I keep going, holding on to whatever hope I have left. Because the alternative, giving up, is something I can't afford either. It's hard to remember a time when I didn't feel the weight of money pressing down on me like this. Every day feels like walking a tightrope stretched over a pit that keeps getting deeper and darker. I'm 26, working full-time, but somehow, it never feels like enough. The bills pile up, the rent climbs every year, groceries aren't what they used to be, and no matter how much I pinch pennies, I still end up wondering if I'll make it through the month without scraping the bottom of the barrel. It's exhausting, not just physically but emotionally, and sometimes I feel like I'm trapped in a system designed to keep me running but never moving forward. I wake up early, usually before the alarm, the anxiety about money already buzzing in my chest. I work in retail, not the most glamorous job, but it pays the rent and a bit of the student loans I'm still paying off. I used to believe if I just worked hard enough, I'd climb out of this hole. But after years of steady raises that barely keep up with inflation, I'm realizing hard work doesn't guarantee progress anymore. Every pay increase feels like a drop of water in the ocean of rising expenses. Take rent, for example. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment in a city that's slowly pricing out people like me. When I moved in 2 years ago, the rent was manageable. Now, it's shot up by nearly 15%, and I'm not even sure how my landlord justifies that when nothing major has changed about the place. I can't move somewhere cheaper because every affordable place seems to be snapped up before you even get to see it. And public transportation costs? They went up last month, too. It's these little things adding up, like tiny taps on a cracked glass that's about to shatter. Groceries are another battle. I used to buy fresh vegetables, sometimes splurge on things like avocados or berries. Now, I'm mostly buying canned goods and whatever's on sale. Sometimes I feel embarrassed when I pull out coupons or compare prices between brands at the checkout line. I don't want people to think I'm cheap, but the truth is, I can't afford to be generous with my spending anymore. And eating out? That's a rare treat, reserved for birthdays or holidays that feel more like a reminder of what life used to be before financial pressure turned everything into a calculation. The credit card is my silent companion, the one that feels both like a lifeline and a chain. When an unexpected expense hits, like my laptop suddenly breaking or a medical bill that wasn't fully covered, I don't have the savings to cover it. The card covers the gap, but the balance only grows, and the interest feels like a weight that's slowly dragging me underwater. I try not to think about how much I owe or how long it will take to pay it off. Sometimes, I just don't look at the statement for weeks. Emotionally, this constant stress has started to wear me down. Some days I feel a dull ache of hopelessness that lingers even when I'm doing my best to stay positive. I see friends buying homes, traveling, and starting families, while I'm still stuck trying to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked. It's hard not to compare and hard not to feel left behind. I want to believe there's a way out, but every month feels like treading water in a storm that just won't quit. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I once dreamed of going back to school to study graphic design, something I'm passionate about, but the tuition and lost income make it impossible right now. I wanted to travel, to see parts of the world that inspire me and remind me there's more than just bills and work. But the budget doesn't allow for flights or hostels or the little adventures that make life feel full. Even simple things, like upgrading my phone or getting new clothes, feel like luxuries I can't justify. To cope, I've developed small rituals. I keep a journal where I write down what I'm grateful for, which helps me hold on to hope when the future looks bleak. I try to find joy in little things, a walk in the park, a book borrowed from the library, a home-cooked meal made from pantry staples. I've learned to say no more often, to set boundaries with friends and family about what I can afford. It's isolating sometimes, but it's necessary. I also talk openly about money with a few close friends who are in similar situations. It's comforting to know I'm not alone, even if it's scary how many of us feel trapped by this invisible system. Sometimes, we dream out loud about what life could be, owning a home, having savings, taking vacations. These conversations remind me that my dreams are valid and worth holding on to, even if they feel distant right now. Despite everything, I cling to the hope that things will get better. I remind myself that this financial pressure, as heavy as it is, isn't permanent. I'm learning new skills, applying for better jobs, and trying to build a future where I'm not just surviving but thriving. I don't know exactly how or when, but I believe in the possibility of breaking free from this cycle. For now, I keep going, one day at a time, balancing the realities of today with the dreams of tomorrow. I try to be kind to myself when the burden feels too heavy, and I remind myself that I'm doing my best in a system that's stacked against me. It's not easy, and some days it feels impossible, but I hold on to the quiet hope that someday, all this struggle will be the foundation for something better. Because giving up isn't an option. Not yet. I never thought I'd end up here, feeling like I'm treading water, constantly gasping for air while the tide of expenses pulls me further out to sea. Yet, here I am, a few years into adulthood, caught in a relentless cycle where my paycheck barely stretches, no matter how hard I try to make it work. It's exhausting. And it's lonely, in a way that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it. I remember back when I graduated college, full of hope and plans. I was ready to take on the world, confident I could carve out a life where I'd have enough to cover my needs, and maybe a little left over to enjoy. The reality hit me faster than I expected. The first time I sat down with a budget spreadsheet, it felt like a cruel joke. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, transportation, it all added up to a mountain higher than I could climb on my salary. I was working full-time, picking up some freelance gigs here and there, but the numbers never quite balanced out. The worst part is watching everything get more expensive while my income stays the same or inches up just barely. The cost of rent alone has ballooned beyond what I ever imagined I'd have to pay. I've moved twice in the past year, each time hoping for a cheaper spot, but the market just shifts, and suddenly affordable is a relative term that excludes me. Groceries aren't much better. The basics that used to fill my cart for a reasonable price now seem like luxury items. Every trip to the store feels like a gamble. Do I buy fresh vegetables or bulk rice? Can I afford that bottle of milk or should I skip it and risk running out? And don't get me started on healthcare or transportation costs, sometimes it feels like everything is designed to drain you dry. It's not just the money, though. It's the emotional weight that comes with this pressure. There are days I wake up feeling a pit in my stomach before I even get out of bed, knowing that I have to make it through another day of counting pennies and justifying every single purchase. That sense of being trapped is overwhelming. I look around and see friends moving forward, buying homes, traveling, starting families, and I wonder when it'll be my turn. Or if it ever will be. Sometimes I catch myself dreaming about what I'd do if money weren't an issue. I'd take art classes again, something I gave up because supplies and tuition felt like luxuries I couldn't justify. I'd go on trips, even if just for a weekend, to places that make my heart feel lighter. I'd have a little emergency fund, so I wouldn't have to panic every time my car makes a weird noise or my phone screen cracks. But those dreams feel distant, like stars I can see but can't quite reach. To cope, I've had to become fiercely practical. I track every expense with almost obsessive detail. I meal prep to avoid the temptation and cost of eating out. I use every discount, coupon, and deal I can find, even if it means spending hours searching for them online. I've taught myself to live with less comfort, clothes that last, furniture that's second-hand, entertainment that's free or cheap. I say no more often than I want to, whether it's declining social invites or passing on things that would bring me joy. It feels like a constant sacrifice, and sometimes it chips away at my sense of self-worth. There's also guilt about not being able to help my family more, guilt about the things I can't afford for myself, guilt for feeling stuck when so many others seem to be doing better. But I remind myself that this isn't just about me, it's a system that's broken in a way that's hard to fix individually. Inflation, stagnant wages, the rising cost of living, they're forces bigger than my small efforts. And yet, those forces shape every decision I make, every night I lie awake calculating the next month's expenses, every conversation with friends where I bite my tongue instead of sharing how hard it really is. I'm learning to be kind to myself in the small ways I can. Celebrating the tiny wins, a week without unexpected expenses, a meal that turned out better than expected, a day when I didn't have to borrow or ask for help. I'm holding on to the hope that things will improve, even if slowly. That maybe one day I'll look back and see this period as a tough chapter one survived, not the whole story. But for now, it's about navigating the daily grind, balancing hope with harsh reality, and finding moments of peace amidst the chaos. Being honest about the struggle is part of that, because pretending everything is fine only makes the isolation worse. So here I am, speaking openly, vulnerable but resilient, trying to make sense of what it means to live in a world where money shapes so much of your freedom, and holding on to the belief that someday, I'll break free. I never thought I'd feel this stuck, like I'm moving forward but sinking deeper at the same time. Every month, the math gets uglier, rent up, groceries up, bills up, but my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. It's like being on a treadmill set to speed, and no matter how fast I run, I can't catch up. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only one who feels this way, or if everyone around me just masks it better. I'm 27 now, and since I graduated college, I've been trying to carve out a life that feels stable, something basic, a steady job, a small apartment I can afford without constantly stressing, and the chance to save for the future. But what's stable anymore? The world shifted beneath my feet in ways I never anticipated. My first real job out of college paid me just enough to live alone, cover the basics, and even put a little aside. Back then, it felt like I was building something real. Then came rent hikes that made me panic, followed by rising prices at the grocery store that hit like a punch every time I scanned the receipt. I started skipping meals sometimes, convincing myself that a little hunger wouldn't hurt. I cut out any extras, no more coffee runs, no going out with friends, no buying books or even a new pair of jeans when mine got worn. Each sacrifice felt like a small wound, but necessary if I wanted to keep my head above water. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a dull ache I carry most days, this underlying anxiety that tightens my chest when I think about money, or the lack of it. The constant juggling act is draining. When the bills come, I have to choose. Do I pay the electric bill in full or put more toward my credit card? Should I fix the dent in my car, or keep saving just in case the transmission goes out? These aren't decisions anyone should have to make every month, but here I am. The economic pressure feels like a cage, and I'm the prisoner pacing inside. I'm not just worrying about this month or next, I'm terrified about what happens if something breaks, or if I lose my job. Without a financial cushion, any unexpected expense feels like a crisis. I hear stories of people buying homes, traveling, investing in themselves, and I can't help but feel left behind, like I'm on a different planet. I still remember the dreams I had before all this pressure settled in. I wanted to move to a bigger city, pursue further education, maybe even start a small side business, a creative project I've kept close to my heart. Those dreams now feel like luxuries I can't afford. Sometimes I lie awake at night thinking about all the what-ifs and if-onlys. What if I'd picked a different major? What if I'd saved more aggressively? What if the economy had stayed steady just a little longer? Coping is a daily challenge. I try to stay grounded by reminding myself of small victories, making it through another month without falling behind, finding moments of joy in cheap or free things like walks in the park or binge-watching a favorite show. I lean on close friends, though I rarely talk about money with them because I'm afraid of sounding like I'm complaining or worse, that they'll see me as failing. It's isolating in a way, feeling like you're battling a mountain everyone else seems to be climbing with fewer scrapes. Sometimes, I get angry. Angry at a system that keeps pushing costs up without raising wages. Angry at how a few years of inflation erased what felt like a lifetime of hard work. Angry at myself for not being smarter or luckier. But mostly, I'm just tired. Tired of pretending I'm okay when I'm not. Tired of holding back tears at night because the pressure feels relentless. Yet, beneath all the struggle, I still hold on to hope. Not blind optimism, but a quiet resilience. I remind myself that this moment isn't forever, that I can find ways to adapt and maybe even thrive eventually. Maybe one day, I'll be able to revisit those postponed dreams and turn them into reality. For now, I'm just trying to survive and keep my dignity intact. It's hard to explain what it feels like to live in this state of financial pressure. It's not just about numbers or budgets, It's about how those numbers shape every corner of your life, the meals you eat, the places you go, the plans you make, the very way you feel about yourself. It's about feeling trapped in a system where the rules seem rigged, and the finish line keeps moving further away. Still, I'm here. Holding on. Hoping that someday, the weight on my shoulders will lighten, and the dreams I've shelved will get their chance to breathe again. Until then, I keep putting one foot in front of the other, even if it feels like I'm running just to stay in the same place. Sometimes it feels like I'm standing still while everything around me moves at lightning speed, especially when it comes to money. I'm 26 now, working full-time, doing everything I'm supposed to do, paying bills on time, trying to save a little, and hoping that one day I'll have enough to feel secure. But every month, the numbers don't add up the way I want them to, and the weight of that reality wears me down more than I ever expected. It's hard to explain this feeling to someone who's never been in it, the constant, gnawing pressure of knowing your income can't keep pace with the rising costs of everything you need. Rent climbs again, and utilities follow. Groceries become more expensive, so I swap out fresh veggies for canned ones or skip a few things here and there. I catch myself scrolling through social media, seeing friends post about their new apartments, vacations, or even just a night out, and it stings because I can't imagine doing those things anytime soon without sinking deeper into stress. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college, full of hope and energy. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe move to a new city, start investing in my future, or even buy a home one day. But reality hit hard. My paycheck felt like it was enough at first, but then the unexpected expenses started piling up, a car repair here, medical bills there, and of course, rent increases that come with the opportunity to renew my lease. Each surprise shattered my budget, and I learned quickly that having money saved is a rare luxury. The system feels rigged, like it's designed so the little guy is always scrambling. You work hard, you do everything right, but somehow it's never enough. Bills demand attention before I can even think about what I want. I've had to put off things that once made me happy or gave me hope. Vacations, hobbies, even social outings, these become calculated decisions weighed against the risk of spending money I can't really afford to lose. There's this invisible chain tightening around my chest every time I open a statement or glance at my bank balance. Emotionally, it's exhausting. Sometimes I feel embarrassed talking about money with friends or family because it seems like I'm always the one struggling. It's easier to keep things to myself, even though that isolation makes it harder. The shame creeps in quietly, whispering that maybe I'm not smart enough or that I've failed somehow. But the truth is, I'm just caught in a system that's bigger than me, and it's relentless. To cope, I've developed a kind of hyper-awareness about spending. I track every penny, clip coupons, hunt for discounts, and try to meal prep so I'm not tempted by takeout. I've found comfort in small rituals, making coffee at home instead of buying it out, walking instead of taking the bus, and borrowing books from the library rather than buying them. These little things feel like tiny victories, even if they don't solve the bigger problem. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake wondering if this is how my whole life will feel, just making do, waiting for something to change. I've had to learn patience with my dreams, but it's hard not to feel discouraged. There's this nagging fear that the future I imagined, owning a home, having financial freedom, even just feeling stable, is slipping further out of reach. Yet, I still hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't permanent, that things can change, even if it takes longer than I want. I try to visualize a future where I'm not trapped by expenses, where I can take a spontaneous trip or save for retirement without panic. Sharing this story feels like a release, like someone finally hearing the quiet battle I fight every day. Maybe if more people understood what it's like to live with ongoing financial pressure, the conversation would change. Until then, I'll keep navigating this complicated, exhausting path, step by step, paycheck by paycheck, hoping that one day, I'll break free and breathe a little easier. I wake up every morning with this heavy weight pressing down on my chest, not a physical pain, but the kind that settles in your gut and refuses to leave. It's the same weight that's been there for years now, ever since I first stepped out into the real world thinking I had some kind of control over my life. But control is a funny thing when you live in a system where your expenses rise faster than your income ever can. I'm 27, and every day feels like a battle against invisible forces that just won't let me breathe easy. Rent climbs again. Grocery prices are up. Gas, utilities, the little things, everything seems to be inching upwards, and yet my paycheck barely moves. I used to think that if I just worked hard enough, saved enough, I could get ahead. But now, it's more like I'm running in place, exhausted and out of breath, watching everything around me move further away. Some mornings, I stare at my bank app and feel a pang of panic. The number is never where I want it to be. Bills are stacked in the corner of my small apartment, and I try not to think about the overdue notices I've been ignoring. It's easier to pretend they don't exist than to face the shame of not being able to pay on time. I'm not someone who asks for help. Pride keeps me quiet. But pride also keeps me stuck. It's like being trapped in a cage where the bars are made of dollars and cents. The bars tighten every month, with rent hikes and surprise medical bills, and the only way out feels like a distant, impossible dream. I've had to postpone things that I once believed were just milestones on the path of adulthood. A real vacation? Forget it. Buying a car to stop relying on public transit? Not happening. Even simple things like upgrading my phone or seeing a movie with friends have become luxuries I can't justify. I remember a time when I dreamed differently. I wanted to travel, to write a novel, to maybe start a small business one day. I had these wild hopes that felt like sparks lighting up the darkness. But those sparks have been buried under layers of worry and what-ifs. Now, my dreams feel like luxury items too expensive for my budget, things to think about later, when everything else is sorted out. But the later keeps stretching, always just out of reach. Some days, I wonder if I'm alone in this feeling. I scroll through social media, see pictures of friends on trips, living seemingly carefree lives, and it hits me hard, the comparison stings. But I know it's a curated reality. Everyone's fighting battles I can't see. Still, the loneliness of financial pressure is real. It isolates you. It changes your relationships. I sometimes cancel plans or avoid outings because I can't afford the cost or the anxiety that comes with spending money I don't have. Coping is a daily negotiation with myself. I've learned to find small joys where I can, like a walk in the park, a homemade meal, or a quiet evening with a book borrowed from the library. I'm grateful for those moments, but they don't erase the underlying tension. I've developed a kind of hyper-awareness around money, tracking every cent, clipping coupons, hunting for deals, and holding off on purchases until absolutely necessary. It's exhausting. And it's a constant reminder that I'm not free. Sometimes, I think about the future and feel a surge of fear. Will I ever escape this cycle? Will I be stuck in jobs I don't love, living paycheck to paycheck for the rest of my life? It's a scary thought, one that sometimes keeps me awake at night. But I also try to hold on to hope, fragile as it is. I remind myself that this isn't permanent. That things can change. That maybe, someday, I'll be able to breathe deeply without the weight on my chest. Writing this out, being honest with myself, helps a little. It makes me feel less invisible, less trapped in silence. I know I'm not the only one feeling this way. There are so many others caught in the same struggle, navigating a system that feels designed to keep us just barely afloat. I don't have all the answers. I don't know when the tide will turn. But for now, I keep waking up, keep pushing forward, keep holding on to the quiet hope that one day, the system won't feel like a cage, and I can finally start living, not just surviving. Because at the end of the day, despite everything, I still want to believe in a future where I can reclaim my dreams. I never thought I'd end up here, feeling like I'm running on a treadmill that only speeds up, no matter how hard I try to keep pace. When I was younger, I had these big dreams, college, maybe traveling, a job I actually liked. I imagined being independent, having enough money to do more than just scrape by. But somewhere along the way, reality hit hard, and now it feels like my every day is swallowed by bills, rent, groceries, and the relentless pressure to keep my head above water. The economic environment we're living in isn't just tough, It feels like it's designed to trap people like me. Prices keep climbing, like they're on some endless escalator, but my income barely moves. I work a steady job, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills, or at least it tries to. Rent alone takes up nearly half of my paycheck. Utilities, food, phone, transportation, all these essentials add up so fast, it's like watching sand slip through my fingers. And then there are the unexpected expenses, a car repair, a medical copay, or replacing a phone screen. Each one sends a small panic through me because it means cutting somewhere else, or going into debt I'm not sure I can pay back. I remember the exact moment it really hit me how tight everything had become. I was at the grocery store, standing in the aisle holding a box of cereal. The price had gone up again, just a few cents, but it was enough to make me pause. I scanned my mental list. If I bought the cereal, I'd have to skip buying fresh fruit this week. If I bought the fruit, maybe I'd have to eat less at lunch to save money. And that moment of calculation wasn't new. It was the same internal debate I had every time I bought anything. Choosing between nutrition and budget. Quality and price. What felt necessary and what could wait. The constant pressure seeps into everything. It's not just about money, it's about freedom. I feel like I'm trapped in a system that doesn't care if I'm tired or stressed or just want a break. The bills don't wait. The rent doesn't care if I had a bad day or if my mental health is struggling. There's no pause button. It's like living under a dark cloud that follows me everywhere, always looming. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I try not to let it show, especially around friends and family. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or making excuses. But some days, the weight of it crushes me. I lie awake at night, worried about what happens if my hours get cut, or if something breaks and I can't fix it right away. I think about emergencies and how unprepared I am. And I wonder if I'll ever get ahead, or if I'm just stuck in this endless loop. Coping with all this has meant making sacrifices I never expected. I used to dream about traveling, seeing new places, meeting new people, learning about the world. Now, I haven't been on a trip in years. Vacations are luxuries I can't afford. Instead, I find small moments of joy in cheap or free things, a walk in the park, a movie night at home, or a coffee with a friend. It's not much, but it's something. I remind myself that happiness doesn't have to come from spending money, but sometimes it's hard not to feel like I'm missing out. I also try to hold on to hope. I'm constantly thinking about ways to improve my situation, maybe going back to school part-time, looking for a better paying job, or even starting a side hustle. But those plans often feel like distant dreams, because they require upfront time and money that I just don't have right now. It's frustrating to want more but feel so limited by circumstances beyond my control. What's hardest is the feeling of being invisible. I know there are millions like me, quietly struggling, and yet it feels like society expects us to just tough it out without complaint. The system rewards those who already have resources, while people like me get caught in a cycle where expenses rise but income doesn't. Sometimes, I feel guilty for wanting more, or for feeling overwhelmed. Like I should just be grateful to have a job at all. But gratitude doesn't pay the rent, and it doesn't ease the anxiety that comes with never knowing if the next paycheck will be enough. At the same time, I'm trying to stay honest with myself about where I am. I'm not perfect, and I've made mistakes, maybe spending impulsively when I shouldn't, or not saving as much as I should have. But I'm learning. Every day is a new challenge, but also a new chance to do better. I'm trying to be kind to myself and to remind myself that financial struggle doesn't define my worth. Some nights, when everything is quiet, I let myself dream. I imagine a future where money isn't a constant worry, where I can afford a place that feels like home, where I can travel just because I want to, not because I can finally afford it. I picture a life where I can invest in my passions instead of just surviving. And even though those dreams feel far off, they keep me going. They remind me that this isn't forever. Writing this down, being honest about what I'm feeling, is part of that hope. Maybe if more people hear these stories, the system will start to change. Maybe we'll find a way to make economic life less of a trap and more of an opportunity. For now, I keep taking it one day at a time, trying to balance survival with hope, and holding on to the belief that better days can come. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up every morning with this tight knot in my chest that doesn't really go away. It's like a shadow hanging over me, a constant reminder that I'm caught in a game where the rules keep changing, and the odds are never in my favor. I'm 27, working a decent job by some standards, but the truth is, my paycheck barely scratches the surface of what I need to keep going. Every day, I feel the squeeze tighter, as if the world around me is moving faster and leaving me behind. The last few years have been a slow unraveling of my dreams and peace of mind. I remember when I first got my job, fresh out of college, full of hope. The economy was a bit rough then, but I thought if I worked hard, I'd be able to build something solid for myself. I imagined a life where I could pay my rent comfortably, maybe save a little, go out with friends now and then without guilt. But now? It feels like those dreams were naive. Rent alone feels like a mountain I can never climb. It's insane how much it's shot up, even places that used to be affordable have skyrocketed beyond reason. Some days I wonder if the people raising rents even realize what it's doing to folks like me. I'm stuck in this tiny apartment where the walls feel like they're closing in, and every month I debate whether I should risk a bigger place with more space or just keep cramming myself into this shoebox to save a few $100. Spoiler, I stick with the shoebox. It's not a choice, it's survival. Then there's food, utilities, transportation, the little things add up so fast. Grocery prices have climbed steadily, and I've had to learn to be a magician with a budget. I plan every meal, buy in bulk when I can, skip things I used to love like fresh fruits or decent coffee. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the shelf in the store, calculating in my head whether I can afford a treat or if I should just stick to the bare minimum. Those moments make me feel small and powerless. I don't even want to think about healthcare. I'm lucky to have insurance through work, but the deductibles and copays? They're like another bill I never expected. I put off going to the doctor unless it's absolutely necessary because I can't afford the extra costs. That's scary. Ignoring health because money isn't there feels like a slow punishment I've accepted. Transportation is another constant stress. I rely on public transit, but the prices keep creeping up. If I want to be on time and get to a second job or pick up extra shifts, it means more expense. Driving isn't really an option either. The cost of gas, maintenance, insurance, it's a whole other nightmare. I'm always calculating the cheapest way to get where I need to go, sometimes walking miles in the heat or cold just to save a few bucks. It's exhausting. This isn't just about money, it's about how the economic system seems rigged to keep people like me in place. No matter how hard I work or how carefully I budget, expenses grow faster than my income. Inflation eats away at every raise I get, and even side hustles aren't enough. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. I've watched friends buy cars, move into nicer apartments, take vacations, start families. Meanwhile, I'm still figuring out how to make rent and bills. Social media doesn't help. It's full of people showcasing lives I can't afford. It's hard not to feel like I'm failing, even though I know everyone's journey is different. The pressure is relentless, though. Sometimes I feel like I'm invisible, like my struggles are just a footnote in a bigger story about economic growth and corporate profits. Emotionally, it wears me down. Some days, I just want to shut everything off and disappear for a while. Anxiety creeps in when I open my bank app. There's a deep, gnawing fear of what happens if something unexpected comes up, a car breaking down, a medical emergency, losing my job. The safety net I thought I'd have is more like a thin thread. I'm constantly trying to stay afloat, but the water keeps rising. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I used to want to travel, to go back to school for a master's degree, to move somewhere new and exciting. I dreamed of a home filled with art and plants, of quiet weekends reading or cooking for friends. Now, those things feel like luxuries far out of reach. I tell myself it's temporary, that if I just keep going, things will get better. But some nights, the weight of temporary feels endless. Coping isn't easy. I try to stay grounded in the little joys, a good book from the library, a walk in the park, video calls with family. I've learned to find comfort in routines and small moments of calm. Sometimes I vent to close friends who understand, though I hate feeling like a burden. Therapy helps, too, even if it's just a weekly reminder that my feelings are valid and I'm not alone in this. I'm also learning to fight back in my own way. I read about tenants' rights, community programs, ways to advocate for fairer wages. It's empowering to realize I'm not just a passive victim but part of a larger conversation about change. Still, the day-to-day grind remains brutal. Most nights, before I fall asleep, I allow myself to imagine a different future, one where I'm not constantly juggling bills, where I can breathe without fear. I picture a small apartment with sunlight streaming in, where I have the time and energy to explore my passions, build relationships, and save for a rainy day. Maybe someday, I'll have enough to invest in myself without hesitation. For now, I keep moving forward, one difficult day at a time. I remind myself that my worth isn't measured by my bank account, even if the system makes it feel that way. This pressure is real, and it's crushing, but it doesn't define me. I'm more than the numbers on my paycheck or the price tags I face every day. I'm holding on to hope, fragile, but alive, that this story will change. And maybe one day, when I'm no longer just surviving, I'll look back on this time and see how it shaped me. Not just as someone who struggled, but as someone who kept going, who dreamed when the world told her to stop. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper every day no matter how hard I struggle. I'm 26, and I work a steady job, or at least I try to, but the truth is, the money I make barely covers the basics anymore. It's this constant pressure, this invisible weight that I carry everywhere I go, and sometimes it feels like it's crushing me from the inside out. When I was a kid, I had dreams. Big ones. I wanted to travel, to study something I loved without worrying if it would pay off immediately. I imagined moving into a small apartment, maybe even saving enough for a car, and having enough left over to eat out with friends on weekends or take a spontaneous trip to the coast. I thought that by my mid-20s, I'd feel stable, or at least hopeful in a way that went beyond mere survival. But here I am, and it's nothing like that. The cost of everything keeps climbing. Rent goes up almost every year, groceries get pricier, and gas, well, sometimes it feels like filling the tank costs half my paycheck. Meanwhile, my income hasn't kept pace. Promotions are few and far between, and the jobs I've applied for that pay better often require more experience or qualifications I just don't have time or money to pursue. Every month feels like a race against the clock and the bills. I wake up, log into work, and keep one eye on the expenses I know are waiting for me, the rent, utilities, phone bill, groceries, and that ever-present credit card balance that seems to grow no matter how much I pay down. It's a cycle. I pay a little, then something unexpected happens, a medical bill, a car repair, and I'm back to square one or worse. Some days, it's all I can do not to break down. I remember last winter, it got so bad I had to choose between heating my apartment and buying food. I tried to tell myself it was temporary, that I could make it work somehow, but lying under 3 layers of blankets while shivering and staring at an empty fridge is a tough way to stay optimistic. The shame was overwhelming, too. There's this stigma attached to struggling financially, like it's a personal failure rather than a symptom of a system that's working against people like me. What hurts most is how lonely it feels. Friends talk about their weekend trips, new gadgets they bought, promotions they earned. I smile, but inside I feel invisible, like I'm living on a different planet where dreams are postponed indefinitely and conversations about splurging or saving up don't apply. I don't bring up my financial stress much because I'm scared it'll sound like whining, or worse, that people will judge me. But the truth is, it's exhausting. Every purchase is a battle. I weigh every decision carefully. Do I really need that coffee today? Can I stretch the groceries for another day? Should I accept the extra shifts even if they burn me out because the money is worth it? These aren't just small choices, they're daily decisions that affect my mental health and sense of self-worth. And then there's the future. I used to dream about buying a home, starting a family someday, or simply having the freedom to quit a job I hated and try something new. Now, those ideas feel like distant fairy tales. I'm terrified that I'll spend years, maybe decades, stuck in this loop, working hard but never getting ahead, just barely keeping my head above water. Some nights, I lie awake and think about what I'd do if I had the chance. Would I go back to school? Move somewhere cheaper? Start a business? The possibilities feel endless and crushing at the same time. Endless because there's so much I want to do, and crushing because it feels like none of it is realistic given my current situation. To cope, I've developed some habits. I try to focus on small wins, a good day at work, a week where I manage to save a bit, even just finding a moment to laugh with friends. I've cut back on a lot, even things that brought me joy, like going to the movies or eating out. Instead, I binge-watch shows at home, cook simple meals, and try to find comfort in routines. I'm learning to ask for help when I can, even though it's hard. Talking to a counselor helped me process the anxiety that financial stress brings. I'm part of online communities where people share tips about budgeting and saving. Sometimes just knowing I'm not alone makes a difference. Still, the feeling of being trapped persists. It's not just about the money, it's about the system that seems rigged so that costs always rise faster than incomes, so that stability feels like a mirage. I hear about the economy growing, markets booming, and it doesn't feel like it's for people like me. I feel invisible in those headlines, a statistic rather than a person with hopes and fears. But despite it all, there's still a flicker of hope inside me. Maybe someday the scales will tip. Maybe I'll find a job that pays better, or the economy will change in a way that benefits people who work hard but get little in return. Maybe I'll get a break, small or big, that lets me breathe for a moment and start dreaming again. Until then, I keep going. Because what else can I do? I hold on to the hope that my story isn't over, that the hard days won't last forever, and that someday, the dreams I've shelved won't be out of reach anymore. I want to believe that despite feeling trapped now, I'm still capable of moving forward, of building a life that feels worth living. For now, I take it day by day, step by step, trying to be kind to myself in a world that feels unforgiving. I'm tired, sure, but I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. And maybe that's enough, for now. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, caught in a loop that tightens around me every day, no matter how hard I try to breathe. It's strange, because I'm only 27, technically an adult supposed to be building something solid, a foundation. Instead, I'm stuck watching the cost of living rise faster than my paycheck grows, feeling the weight of bills that seem to multiply overnight. And it's not just about money, it's about what this pressure does to my head and heart. When I wake up, the first thing I think about is how I'm going to make it through the day without falling behind. Not just at work, but on rent, groceries, utilities, the student loans that never seem to stop. There's this gnawing tension beneath every decision. Should I buy the cheaper brand of cereal even though it tastes worse? Do I cut back on my phone data plan, risking not being able to call my family? Every small choice feels loaded, like a test I'm barely passing. The job I have pays just enough to keep the lights on and food on the table, but nothing more. Sometimes, when a surprise expense hits, a car repair, a medical bill, or even just an increase in my utility bill, I have to scramble, borrowing from friends or juggling payments. It's embarrassing and exhausting. I'm so tired of saying no to things that other people my age seem to take for granted. No nights out, no spontaneous trips, no upgrades or little treats. Even basic self-care feels like a luxury. What really gets me is the growing feeling of being trapped. The system feels rigged, prices for everything keep climbing, rent, groceries, transportation, and my income barely budges. Sometimes I lie awake at night wondering how people are expected to build a life when the foundation itself is crumbling. I've read about how wages have stagnated for years while inflation eats away at what little I make, but it's one thing to know the facts and another to live them every day. There are days when the stress feels unbearable. It presses on me like a physical weight in my chest, making it hard to focus or sleep. I catch myself snapping at friends or feeling hopeless about the future. Sometimes I cry quietly in the shower because I don't want anyone to see how fragile I feel. I worry about my mental health slipping away, but therapy and counseling are expensive, and I can't justify the cost when rent is due. So, I push those feelings down, pretending I'm fine, even when inside I'm anything but. Coping feels like a full-time job. I've learned to live frugally, meal prepping, using coupons, avoiding anything unnecessary. I've stopped watching TV shows or reading books that require subscriptions because even small monthly costs add up. I stay home most nights, scrolling through social media, watching others' lives that feel so out of reach. I try to remind myself that social media is a highlight reel, but it still stings. Sometimes I get angry, jealous, or just plain sad. I've had to put my dreams on hold, too. When I was younger, I imagined going back to school, maybe getting a master's degree, or even starting my own business. I pictured traveling, seeing new places, meeting new people. I dreamed of a stable home where I could invite friends over without worrying about the noise or the rent. But those dreams feel like distant stars now, too far away to reach, and the daily grind keeps me from chasing them. Despite all this, I still cling to hope, fragile but alive. Hope that maybe one day, things will change. Maybe I'll get a raise, or find a better job, or the economy will improve. Maybe I'll save enough to move to a safer neighborhood or take that trip I've dreamed about for years. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like to feel truly free from financial worry, to wake up and make decisions based on what I want, not what I can afford. Those thoughts keep me going when everything else feels bleak. I don't want pity or charity, I want understanding. I want people to know that this isn't just about bad money management or laziness. It's about a system that feels stacked against people like me, who work hard but can't seem to get ahead. I want to be honest about the toll it takes on my mental health and my sense of self. And I want to remind anyone who might be struggling, like me, that they're not alone. Someday, I hope to tell a different story, one where the pressure eases, where choices don't feel like compromises between survival and dignity. But for now, I'm here, doing my best to navigate a world that often feels designed to keep me down. And that, honestly, is enough to keep me moving forward, one small step at a time. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this loop that feels more like a slow trap tightening around me every day. I'm 27, living in a city where everything seems to be speeding up except my paycheck. The rent, the groceries, the bills, they all climb steadily while my income barely budges. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's getting faster and faster, and no matter how hard I push, I'm not getting anywhere. It started a few years ago, just after college. I had this bright hope, the kind that's easy to hold on to when you're fresh out of school and convinced the world owes you a chance. But the moment I stepped into the real world, reality hit hard. The job I landed wasn't bad, it paid enough to cover the basics, but it wasn't enough to save, invest, or plan for the future. And with inflation rising, each paycheck felt smaller and smaller. I remember one particular month not long ago. I sat at my kitchen table, bills spread out in front of me like some kind of cruel puzzle. Electricity, internet, student loans, credit card minimums, rent that had gone up again, each number was a weight pressing down on my chest. I could feel my heart racing, the pressure mounting. That night, I cried alone, not out of hopelessness but out of sheer exhaustion. I was drained from constant financial juggling, from making decisions that always meant cutting corners somewhere else. The hardest part is how it changes your relationship with money and yourself. You start to second-guess every little expense. Should I buy coffee today or skip it? Should I text my friends and suggest hanging out, knowing it might mean spending money I don't really have? There's this constant background noise of anxiety, a low hum that never really goes away. It colors everything, even moments that should be joyful or relaxing. I've learned to be incredibly resourceful. Coupons, thrift stores, cooking meals in bulk, avoiding the temptation of sales on things I don't need, it's like I'm living in survival mode. But survival mode isn't sustainable, it wears you down. Sometimes I get angry at the system that makes it so hard to get ahead, angry at the rising costs of living while wages stagnate. Sometimes I feel guilty, like I'm failing myself or my family because I can't give more or do better. The system feels designed to keep people like me in place. Expenses creep up silently but relentlessly, always outpacing my income. Housing costs, healthcare, transportation, they don't just rise a little, they leap, and I'm left scrambling to catch up. It's like a game where the rules keep changing, and the goalposts move further away every time I think I'm close. It's exhausting. I have dreams, big ones. I want to travel, to save enough to buy a home someday, maybe start a family. But those dreams feel distant, like stars I can see but can't reach. They're on hold indefinitely because every extra dollar goes to keep the lights on, the fridge full, the bills paid. I tell myself that someday, things will get better, that the economy will stabilize, that I'll get a promotion or find a better paying job. But those somedays don't come fast enough, and sometimes I wonder if they ever will. Emotionally, this pressure is a heavy fog that clings to me. Some days I feel hopeful, energized to push through, to look for new opportunities. Other days, the weight is so crushing that even getting out of bed feels like a victory. I try to stay connected to friends and family, but even that is complicated when financial stress dominates your mind. I don't want to be a burden, but I need support, someone to understand this quiet, ongoing fight. Coping has become a daily practice. I journal sometimes, trying to pour out the frustration and fear so it doesn't swallow me whole. I walk in the park, trying to find peace in nature, even if it's just for a few minutes. Music helps, a refuge from the noise of bills and deadlines. And I remind myself to be kind to my own struggles, to acknowledge that this situation isn't a failure of character but a reality faced by so many. I know I'm not alone. I see it in friends, in colleagues, in stories online. The economic environment is harsh for people like me, and it's changing the way we live, the way we think about our futures. But acknowledging that doesn't make it easier. It just means this pressure isn't personal, it's systemic. And that's both a comfort and a new kind of pain. Despite all this, I keep going. Because what else can I do? The fire inside me hasn't gone out yet. I still have hope, buried beneath the worry and the fatigue, that one day I'll look back and see this time as a chapter one survived, not the whole story. Until then, I take it one day, one paycheck, one meal at a time, trying to hold on to the belief that better is possible, even if it feels far away right now. So, this is me, just trying to breathe through the pressure, keep my feet moving forward, and hold tight to the dreams I refuse to let go. I never imagined that being an adult would feel like this, a constant tightrope walk over a canyon of bills, expenses, and never-ending worries. Every day feels like a balancing act where one misstep could send me tumbling down. It's exhausting. The reality is, I'm living under a heavy, invisible weight that no one really talks about openly, the suffocating pressure of money slipping through your fingers, no matter how hard you claw. I'm 27 now. And for most of my life, I thought I'd be cruising by this age, maybe with a steady job, some savings, a few simple pleasures, and a little hope for the future. But the truth is, I'm still scrambling. Every paycheck disappears almost before it hits my bank account. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, car payments, these aren't just bills, they're chains. Chains that get heavier every month, tightening around my wrists. It feels like I'm stuck in a system that's designed to keep me running in place while everything else moves forward and upward without me. The cost of living keeps rising faster than my income ever can. Rent went up again last month, and I don't even want to talk about how much groceries have inflated. Buying food used to be something I barely thought about, now I spend hours comparing prices, clipping coupons, and meal planning just to stretch my budget. A few years ago, I dreamed about traveling, saving for a house, or even just having enough for a spontaneous night out. But those dreams feel distant, almost like luxuries reserved for someone else. The me I see in those dreams feels like a stranger. Some days, the weight gets so heavy that I can hardly breathe. I wake up anxious, knowing the day will be full of small crises, a car repair I didn't budget for, an unexpected medical bill, a utility bill higher than I anticipated. Every expense is a decision between survival and sacrifice. Do I eat out less this week? Skip the gym? Turn off the heat and bundle up? Each choice chips away at my dignity and my well-being. I try to stay positive, but there's a deep undercurrent of fear and frustration that never quite leaves me. It's exhausting to feel like you're doing everything right, working hard, making smart decisions, but still never getting ahead. It's a strange kind of loneliness, too, because it's not just about the money, it's about feeling trapped by a system that seems indifferent to your effort or your hopes. I watch social media and see friends traveling, buying homes, starting families. I'm happy for them, truly, but there's a sting too, because those things feel like out-of-reach privileges rather than attainable goals. The emotional toll is real. There are nights when I lie awake, stomach twisting, heart pounding, overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness. I've had to postpone so many dreams, going back to school, taking a creative writing class, starting a side hustle, because the risk feels too high when every cent counts. It's like the future is a locked door, and I lost the key somewhere along the way. But I'm still here. I find little ways to cope. I remind myself to breathe, to celebrate small victories, like paying off a credit card or getting a slightly better shift at work. I hold on to moments of connection with friends, even if they're simple, like a walk in the park or a coffee at home. I try to nurture hope quietly, even if it feels fragile. I read stories of people who managed to break free, who found ways out of the maze. Sometimes, that hope feels like a lifeline. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about identity and worth and dignity. It's about waking up every morning with the question, can I make it today? And sometimes, the answer is terrifyingly uncertain. But despite the pressure, despite the fear, I want to believe that there's more ahead. I want to believe that someday, the system won't hold me down so tightly. That I can breathe freely again, dream openly again, and live without the constant anxiety of balancing on this invisible, fragile edge. For now, I keep walking that tightrope, one careful step at a time. I wake up most mornings with a knot in my stomach, a heavy, sinking feeling that never quite goes away. It's not just the usual tiredness from a restless night or the weight of everyday stress. It's something deeper, a quiet pressure that's been building for years now, pressing down on me from all directions. Financial pressure. The kind that doesn't just make you worry about money but makes you question almost everything about your life. I'm 27, living in a city where the cost of living seems to climb faster than the speed of light, while my paycheck inches forward like it's stuck in molasses. Every month feels like a balancing act on a tightrope stretched over a pit of bills, rent, and unexpected expenses. It's exhausting. And I don't think anyone who hasn't lived it can really understand what that does to you, how it chips away at your confidence, your dreams, and sometimes even your hope. My days start early because I work a job that doesn't pay much but demands a lot. The schedule is unpredictable, the hours sometimes longer than they should be. I've taken on a second gig on weekends just to cover the basics, but even then, there are months when it's barely enough. I've lost count of how many times I've stared at my bank account, willing the numbers to magically increase, only to see them stubbornly low, sometimes dipping into the red. It's humiliating. It's stressful. And the worst part is knowing it's not just me, so many people around me are in the same boat, struggling silently. The economy feels like this giant, unrelenting machine designed to keep me running in place. Prices for rent, groceries, utilities, everything, go up, and my income doesn't keep pace. I remember when my rent was reasonable. Now, a tiny studio costs more than half of what I make in a month. Utilities spike during the winter, and the heating bills make me choose between warmth and food sometimes. Food, I used to love cooking and experimenting with recipes, but now I stick to the cheapest staples, meals that stretch my dollar and fill the void without breaking the bank. There's this constant calculation in my mind, what can I afford? What do I need to skip? Can I postpone paying a credit card this month without penalties? Should I cut back on groceries to cover a medical bill? It's exhausting to be so strategic about survival. I feel trapped in this loop where the system seems rigged, expenses grow relentlessly, but wages remain stagnant, or worse, my hours get cut due to budget constraints. I try to remind myself this isn't personal, but sometimes it feels like the world is against me. Emotionally, it's draining. I find myself withdrawing from friends because social outings cost money I don't have. I used to enjoy going to concerts or grabbing coffee, but now I say no more often than yes. The isolation is its own form of poverty. I catch myself comparing my life to others, people who seem to travel, buy nice things, or even just live without this constant financial anxiety. It stings, and sometimes it makes me angry, not just at them but at a system that's set up this way. Sleep doesn't come easy. At night, I lie awake thinking about bills, looming deadlines, and what happens if I lose this job. What then? The stress triggers anxiety and sometimes depression. I try to stay positive, but the weight of uncertainty can feel suffocating. It's like carrying an invisible backpack filled with bricks, no one sees it, but it's always there. To cope, I've developed little rituals and habits. Budgeting apps, meal prepping, cutting back on any non-essential spending. I celebrate small victories, like finally paying off a credit card or managing to save a little bit this month. But even those feel fragile, easily shattered by an unexpected car repair or a medical expense. I've also leaned on a few close friends and family when I can, though I hate feeling like a burden. Still, their support is a lifeline. I've had to postpone so many dreams, going back to school, traveling, even buying a place of my own. I remember the excitement I once felt imagining a future where I had financial freedom, where I could invest in myself, build a career, and live without constant worry. Now, those dreams feel distant, almost like they belong to someone else's life. Sometimes I wonder if they'll ever be possible. Will I ever have the chance to breathe freely, without fear of what the next month's expenses will bring? Despite everything, I hold on to hope. I try to remind myself that this is not permanent, that my situation can change. I'm working on skills, networking, applying for better opportunities, even if the progress feels slow. I imagine a day when money won't dictate every choice I make, when I can say yes to things that bring joy rather than just survival. Maybe it's naive, but hope is a quiet rebellion against despair. Writing this down feels like lifting a little bit of that weight, being honest about a reality that's hard to admit. I know I'm not alone in this, even if it often feels that way. There's a whole generation like me, caught in the same struggle, trying to find balance in an unforgiving economic landscape. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that financial pressure is more than numbers in a bank account, it's a force that shapes how we live, love, and dream. And while I can't control the system, I can control how I respond, how I hold on to hope, and how I keep moving forward, one small step at a time. That, for now, is enough. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this relentless cycle where every dollar I make feels like it disappears before I even blink. It's not just about being broke or having a tight budget anymore. It's the creeping sense that no matter how hard I work, the bills keep climbing, the costs rise, and my income stays stubbornly the same. I'm 26, juggling 2 part-time jobs just to keep the lights on and the fridge from going empty, but it often feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up and I'm stuck at the very bottom rung. I grew up hearing about the promise of hard work paying off. My parents worked their butts off and told me, if you study hard, get a good job, you'll be fine. But the world I'm living in now is nothing like the one they described. Rent in my city has doubled in the last 5 years. Groceries? Forget about buying fresh vegetables or anything that isn't on sale. Transportation costs are rising because of fuel hikes. Utilities, internet, phone plans, all these basic things keep going up, and somehow I have to stretch my paycheck to cover them all. It's exhausting. Every morning starts with a small pit in my stomach. I know I'll have to carefully calculate what I can afford that day, if anything at all. Do I have enough for a coffee? Or is it better to skip it and save the $3? Sometimes I tell myself, one less coffee won't kill you, but it's more than that. It's about all the little things that bring joy or relief, and how they're slowly disappearing from my life because I can't justify the expense. I've become hyper-aware of every cent, the sound of coins jingling in my pocket, the balance on my bank app, the slow creep of overdue notices for bills I can't quite keep up with. The hardest part isn't just the numbers, it's the feeling of being trapped. Like I'm stuck inside a box with walls that keep closing in tighter and tighter. I see people my age talking about buying homes, traveling, starting families, investing in their futures, and I wonder when I'll ever get to that point. The system feels rigged, like a game where the rules change every day and the house always wins. My wages don't rise at the same pace as inflation. The jobs I can get barely cover essentials, and there's no safety net. Saving money feels like a cruel joke. Some days, the anxiety crushes me. I wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, thinking about rent due next week or that car repair I can't afford but desperately need so I can get to work. The stress seeps into every part of my life, making it hard to focus, to dream, to even imagine a better future. I know people say mental health matters, but when you're living paycheck to paycheck, the basics take all your energy, and there's no time or money left for therapy or self-care. So I just push on, pretending I'm fine because there's no other option. To cope, I've learned to become incredibly resourceful. I hunt for deals obsessively, use every coupon, swap clothes and meals with friends, and try to avoid any unexpected expenses. I've taken up cooking from scratch because eating out is a luxury I can't afford. Sometimes, I buy bulk frozen vegetables and rice, cheap, filling, and long-lasting. I've even started biking to work despite the weather because I can't afford public transport every day. It's humbling but necessary. Even with all this, I hold on to some small flicker of hope. I've had to postpone my dreams, yes, traveling to new countries, going back to school to finish my degree, saving to buy a car, but I haven't given up on them entirely. They live in my mind like fragile seedlings waiting for better conditions to grow. I imagine a future where I'm not constantly anxious about money, where I can wake up without dread, where I can take care of myself and those I love. But that future feels far away, and sometimes I'm scared it might never come. What hurts most is the loneliness of it all. Financial stress isolates you, makes you feel ashamed and embarrassed. Friends invite me out, but I say no because I can't afford it. Family asks why I'm not moving forward, why I'm still renting, why I don't have savings. I want to explain, to make them understand that it's not about laziness or lack of ambition, it's about a system that makes it nearly impossible to get ahead. But words feel inadequate. It's easier to smile and say I'm fine than to reveal the constant tightrope walk I'm doing every day. Sometimes I dream of finding a way out, maybe a better job, a side hustle, or a small break of luck. I try to remind myself that progress, no matter how slow, is still progress. I track my expenses obsessively and celebrate small wins like paying off a credit card or saving $20 in a month. It's not much, but it's proof that I'm still fighting. In the end, I'm just trying to survive and hold on to my humanity amid an economic storm that feels unrelenting. I'm learning to be patient with myself and with the system that's failing so many of us. And I'm learning that being vulnerable about these struggles is not weakness, it's necessary. Because if we don't talk about it, how can we expect anything to change? This isn't just my story, it's the story of millions of young people trying to carve out a future in a world that's moving too fast and asking too much. I never thought I'd be writing about money like this, like it's some kind of monster lurking just beneath the surface of my everyday life. But here I am, feeling like I'm drowning in a tide I can't swim against. It's not just that I don't have enough, it's that everything keeps getting more expensive, while my paycheck barely moves. It's a weird kind of slow suffocation, where every choice I make feels like a small defeat, but I have to make it anyway. I'm 27, living in a city that used to feel full of possibility. I moved here after college, full of hope and energy, thinking I'd find a job that made me feel alive, and that I'd be able to pay my rent, maybe save a bit, maybe even have some fun. That was before rent went up twice in 2 years, before groceries started costing more every week, before I realized that my minimum wage increase is a joke compared to inflation. Every day, I wake up and make a mental checklist of what I absolutely have to do, what I can maybe do if things go well, and what I just can't afford to do, and that last list keeps growing. I skip the gym membership I once loved because $40 a month is suddenly a luxury. I eat more at home, which means more time cooking, but less variety because fresh vegetables and decent protein have become pricey. I turn off lights the second I leave a room, keep the thermostat low in winter, and debate whether I can afford the bus fare or if I should try walking the extra mile in the freezing cold. It's like living in a slow-motion game of survival. Each day, I'm trying to balance what I earn with what I absolutely need: rent, utilities, phone bill, a bit of food, and the occasional bus ticket to work. Everything else, doctor visits, social outings, hobbies, dreams, gets shoved to the side. My bank account is a reminder that safety is a fantasy, not a reality. What hurts most isn't the math, though. It's the feeling that the system is designed to keep me small, keep me trapped. I work full-time, sometimes extra shifts, and I'm exhausted in a way that's more than physical. It's the mental weight of knowing that my income will never catch up to my expenses, that the cost of living will always outpace any raises or bonuses I might get. It's the anxiety of unexpected bills, a car repair, a medical copay, that immediately throws everything into chaos. I've had to postpone so many dreams. There was a trip I wanted to take to see my sister across the country, which I told myself I'd make happen next year. That was 2 years ago. I dreamed of moving out of my cramped apartment into a space with a little more light and air, maybe even a tiny balcony where I could grow some plants. Now I just dream about having enough left over to buy a new pair of shoes when the ones I wear thin finally give out. Some nights, I lie awake imagining what it would be like to just take a break, not worry about bills, not have to count every cent, not feel this gnawing stress every time I open my wallet. But then I remind myself that breaks aren't for people like me, not when the world keeps spinning and the bills keep coming. Emotionally, this pressure is a heavy, dull ache. It's embarrassment when I can't afford to join friends for dinner or coffee. It's loneliness when I say no again and again to invitations because I know I can't cover the cost. It's frustration and helplessness at the endless cycle: work, pay bills, survive, repeat. I sometimes feel like I'm failing, even though I know logically that I'm doing everything I can. But knowing and feeling are different things. I try to cope in little ways. I keep a journal where I vent all the frustration and sadness that I can't share with anyone else. I take long walks to clear my head, even when my feet ache. I cling to small joys: a song that makes me smile, a good book borrowed from the library, a sunset that reminds me there's still beauty in the world. I talk to a few close friends, carefully choosing what I share so I don't sound like a constant downer, but also so they know I'm still here, still fighting. Sometimes, when I'm at work, I let myself daydream about a future that feels more hopeful. Maybe one day I'll have a job that pays well enough to live without counting every dollar. Maybe I'll own a place with enough space for a little garden, where I can cook meals with fresh herbs and invite friends over without worry. Maybe I'll travel again, feel the thrill of new places instead of the weight of staying put because it's too expensive. But those dreams are fragile, and I try not to cling to them too tightly because if they slip away, there's nothing left but the grind. So, I keep my head down, keep working, keep budgeting, keep hoping that somehow, slowly, things will get better. The truth is, living with this constant financial pressure shapes how I see myself and the world. It makes me cautious, wary, sometimes fearful. But it also makes me resilient, because I have no choice but to keep going. I'm learning to accept that some days are harder than others and that being vulnerable about this struggle doesn't make me weak, it makes me human. I wish the system were different. I wish wages rose with the cost of living, that rent didn't swallow half of what I earn, that basic needs weren't a source of constant stress. But until then, I'll keep moving forward, one small, careful step at a time. Maybe one day, this pressure will ease, and I'll look back at these years and realize how much strength I found in simply surviving them. Until then, I'll keep dreaming, quietly, cautiously, of a life where money isn't the monster under my bed, but just another part of living. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.